feeling the weight of those big ambitions sometimes, you're definitely not alone. Sometimes that climb towards your dream feels less like this exciting challenge and more like, well, just a really long uphill battle.
Yeah.
Every single decision can feel huge, right? Leaving you wondering if you're even like on the right path at all. It's that moment where you think, is this actually going to work?
And what's interesting there is how common that feeling is, that sense of being a bit adrift when you're facing these big goals. It's uh, pretty natural, really, a human response to uncertainty.
Mm.
And that's exactly where having a more structured approach can, well, really make a difference.
Exactly. And that's what we're getting into today. A really powerful tool to help you take those maybe slightly fuzzy goals and turn them into real, tangible accomplishments. We're talking about SMART goals.
Hmm.
Now, this isn't just about being generally, responsible or switched on, although that definitely helps. This is a specific framework.
Yeah. And if you think about the bigger picture, the SMART framework is really all about bringing focus and intention to how you actually set out to achieve something. It's about taking those abstract ideas swirling around in your head and making them, well, concrete, grounded.
Precisely. We've got a great breakdown from a crash course video that lays out the core ideas really well, and also a really useful document that kind of frames this whole thing as your own personal mission strategy.
A mission strategy. I like that.
Yeah. So our mission today, to really get our heads around how to use SMART goals to build that strategy for yourself. So just take a second, think about this. What's one really big thing you've always wanted to make happen?
And that question itself raises a really important point, doesn't it? When you're looking at that big, maybe overwhelming picture, the first crucial step is figuring out how to break it down into something manageable. So let's just jump right in. What exactly are SMART goals?
Okay, yeah, let's unpack this. SMART. It's an acronym, right? Just a handy way to remember the 5 kind of key ingredients for setting effective goals. We're talking specific, measurable, ambitious, realistic, and timely. Think of them as the, essential building blocks.
And what's really fascinating is how these 5 elements aren't just like separate little boxes you tick off. They really work together. Each one influences the others,
Yeah.
to transform that vague desire that I wish into something you can actually act on. It's a whole system.
Absolutely. It's like trying to bake a cake without a recipe. You might end up with something, well, edible-ish maybe, but probably not quite what you were hoping for. SMART kind of provides that recipe for your goals. And with that in mind, here's something to think about. Take that vague goal you might be mulling over right now. Can you start to see how you might begin to make it a SMART goal?
And this leads us right into that first key ingredient, being specific. Why is that so much more powerful than just, saying what you generally want?
Well, like the crash course video points out, right? A well-meaning but kind of fuzzy idea like just try harder or do your best doesn't really give you anything concrete to aim for. It's just too open-ended.
Right. No target.
Exactly. Being specific is about getting really, really clear on the details. It's about breaking down those big, sometimes kind of scary goals into smaller, more tangible steps. And this not only like lights up the path forward, but it also helps quiet that little nagging voice in your head that wonders if you're even making any progress. Seeing the smaller steps makes it feel real.
And if we connect this to sort of broader ideas about focus,
Yeah.
specificity acts almost like a laser beam, doesn't it? When you know exactly what you need to do, you're much less likely to get sidetracked or feel lost in just the sheer scale of a big project. It directs your energy effectively.
Totally. The document gives a really clear example. Instead of a general aim like get fit or eat healthier, a specific SMART goal would be something like eat 1 serving of vegetables with dinner every single weekday. See how much clearer that is. Much more actionable. So going back to that general goal you had in mind earlier, maybe try to jot down a specific version of it. What are the actual steps involved? What exactly do you want to do?
Okay, so once you've got that specific goal nailed down, the next logical step is making it measurable.
Hmm.
Why is that so critical? Being able to track your progress in, concrete terms.
Because, well, as the video wisely asks, if you don't have a way to measure it, how will you actually know if you're getting anywhere, if you're succeeding?
Good question.
Yeah. Measurable goals use numbers or maybe other concrete markers so you can see your progress objectively, like really see it. This allows you to actually witness how far you've come, which, let's be honest, is a huge boost to your motivation.
Oh, for sure.
Plus, it helps you set those smaller milestones along the way, little checkpoints where you can pause, acknowledge, and maybe even celebrate your achievements. Small wins matter.
And this connects directly to the whole idea of feedback, doesn't it? Measurable goals give you actual data points. They tell you whether your current approach is working or if, maybe, you need to adjust course a bit. Without those metrics, you're essentially just flying blind, hoping for the best.
Yeah, exactly.
And like the document points out, a goal that isn't measurable, well, it's really hard to feel like you've truly accomplished it. How do you know when you've crossed the finish line if there isn't one?
Think about the example in the video again. Instead of that grand but totally unquantifiable ambition of, say, become a better artist, a measurable goal could be complete one drawing every single week. That gives you a clear target, something definite, and a way to look back and say, yep, I did that.
Right. Okay, now we move into a really interesting area, maybe a slightly trickier one. Finding that balance between ambition and realism. This is where things can get, a bit nuanced, but also incredibly rewarding if you get it right.
It really is. The SMART framework tells us our goals should be ambitious, right? They should push us a little, keep us engaged, and ultimately lead to more significant, lasting results. Think about learning a new skill. If it's just way too easy, you'll probably lose interest pretty quickly. That challenge is what keeps you hooked.
Totally. But, and this is the crucial part, those ambitious goals also have to be grounded in reality. They need to be realistic. Goals that are just so far-fetched they feel completely impossible can actually be super demotivating. They can lead to frustration and that feeling of failure, even when you are making small steps forward. It's about finding that sweet spot.
Right. The video uses that great analogy. Aiming to climb Mount Everest tomorrow when you've done zero training is definitely ambitious, but not remotely realistic, is it?
Not even close.
And to help us navigate this, the document introduces a really useful concept, thinking about a minimum acceptable outcome, and then on top of that, aiming for a stretch goal.
Ah, okay. And if we connect that to some psychological principles, that kind of two-tiered approach can be incredibly effective, actually. The minimum acceptable outcome gives you that sense of achievable success, right? It prevents you from feeling like you've completely failed if you don't hit the absolute top. While the stretch goal still allows you to aim higher and push your boundaries, but maybe without the crushing pressure of having to hit that top mark right away.
It's kind of like having a safety net, but with a bonus prize attached.
Yeah, exactly.
The video's example of learning a language uses the idea of just being able to order food in that language as the minimum, the achievable bit, and then maybe having a full, proper conversation as the stretch goal. Both are definitely wins, right? But one is clearly a bigger achievement.
Makes sense. Okay, and finally we come to the T in SMART. Timely. Why is having a specific time frame, a deadline, attached to your goal so darn important?
Well, simply put, deadlines fight procrastination. It's as simple as that. Without a clear by when, that goal can just keep floating around in the future, perpetually stuck on your to-do list, but never actually getting done. You know, someday is a notoriously unreliable date.
Yeah, someday never really arrives, does it? And what's fascinating here is how adding a timeline creates this sense of focus and urgency. It forces you to actually think about the steps involved and when you need to take them. It pulls the future into the present and kind of demands action. This relates to that idea, Parkinson's law, I think, which basically suggests that work expands to fill the time you give it. So give yourself a deadline.
And you're much more likely to get it done within that time. Exactly. And for those really big, complex goals, like the video's example of writing a whole novel, breaking it down into smaller, time-bound chunks is absolutely key. Think, write one chapter per month, or maybe even outline 3 key scenes this week.
Smaller steps.
Yeah, these smaller deadlines make the overall massive goal feel way less intimidating and help you stay on track, keep the momentum going. The document also wisely suggests setting interim deadlines checkpoints along the way to avoid that mad last-minute rush. But it also cautions, don't make them so tight they just cause unnecessary stress. It's about finding that productive, sustainable rhythm.
Okay, but what if you're right at the very beginning of your journey? Like you're not even entirely sure what your long-term goals are yet. Our sources actually offer a really helpful angle on this.
Yeah, that's where this concept of learning goals comes into play, which I thought was really interesting. If you're feeling a bit unsure about your ultimate destination, your big picture, you can set SMART goals that are specifically about exploration and gathering information. They're like these little mini missions focused purely on clarifying your path before you commit to those bigger outcome-based milestones.
That's a really valuable insight, actually.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the most specific goal you can set initially is just to gain more understanding, isn't it? The document gives a great example. Conduct one informational interview with someone in a field I'm considering each week for the next month.
Right.
That helps you gather insights explore different possibilities, and then you can refine your future more outcome-focused goals based on what you learned. It's like learning before you leap.
Definitely. Now, even with the best laid plans, perfectly crafted SMART goals, things don't always go exactly as we anticipate, do they? What are some of the common pitfalls or things to watch out for?
Well, one really important aspect that the video highlights is the need to consider unintended consequences, especially when you're setting goals within a team context. You really need to think about how those goals might inadvertently shape people's behavior in ways you didn't expect.
Oh yeah, the auto shop example in the video is such a powerful illustration of exactly this. The goal was to generate, what, $150 in sales per hour? Seemed reasonable on the surface maybe, but unfortunately it ended up leading some mechanics to overcharge customers or, recommend unnecessary repairs just to hit that target.
Hmm.
The intention was just to increase revenue, but the actual outcome damaged customer trust, probably hurt the shop's reputation, and raised ethical questions. It's a classic case of, be careful what you wish for, or at least how you measure it.
And that raises a really fundamental question, doesn't it? Can the way we measure success sometimes lead to behaviors that actually undermine the real underlying goal? It's a stark reminder that the metrics you choose to track really shape how people will work to achieve them. Incentives matter.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
The video suggests that in that auto shop scenario, maybe incorporating customer satisfaction surveys or perhaps using flat rate pricing for common repairs could have helped mitigate those negative incentives, balance things out a bit.
Good point.
So when you're setting your own goals, or especially goals for a team, it's worth taking that step back and thinking about the potential ripple effects. What behaviors might this goal unintentionally encourage, good or bad?
Right. And speaking of teams, how can this whole SMART framework be effectively applied when you are trying to work towards a shared objective with other people?
Well, the document really emphasizes that SMART goals can be incredibly valuable for aligning a team around a common purpose. Makes everyone pull in the same direction. When everyone clearly understands the specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, or realistic, we've used both. But relevant is another important angle, and time-bound targets, it just creates a shared understanding. Everyone knows what success looks like and roughly how to get there.
Hmm. However, what's really crucial here, it seems, is balancing that big, overarching team goal with the individual priorities and contributions of each team member. The video cautions against setting purely individual goals without a clear link back to the larger team objective,
Oh.
because that can sometimes accidentally foster competition instead of collaboration. You don't want people working against each other.
Exactly. You want everyone rowing in the same direction, not having their own separate races. So clear and consistent communication, regular progress updates, open feedback, all that stuff is absolutely essential for making team-based SMART goals actually work effectively. You need to make sure everyone's on the same page and feels like their individual efforts really do contribute to the collective success.
Okay, and finally, it's just so important to remember that the journey towards pretty much any significant goal is rarely a straight, smooth path, is it? What role does flexibility play in this whole process?
Oh, huge. Life happens, doesn't it? Priorities can shift, unexpected challenges pop up out of nowhere. Both of our sources really highlight that adjusting your timeline, or maybe even deciding to pivot and change a goal, isn't necessarily a sign of failure at all.
Right.
Often, it's actually a really smart and necessary adaptation based on new information or just, shifting circumstances. The quality of your goals is definitely more important than the sheer number of them. And sometimes you just need to strategically decide to put certain goals on the back burner for a while. That's okay.
But, and this is an important distinction, I think, it's important to distinguish between making a considered strategic adjustment and simply giving up just because things get a bit difficult or uncomfortable. The video suggests that setting up some maybe gentle accountability measures can help you stay on track when the going gets tough.
Yeah, like the example of sharing your financial goals with a trusted friend. That social element can make you think twice before making a big impulsive purchase that derails your plan. A little bit of positive pressure. And ultimately, I think both sources kind of remind us that that internal drive, that desire for personal growth, is often the most powerful motivator for actually achieving goals in the long run. Relying solely on external rewards, like prizes or whatever, can sometimes lead people to find shortcuts or just, game the system instead of genuinely engaging.
Yeah, the intrinsic motivation.
Right. So the key takeaway here, nobody gets it right all the time. Everyone has to start somewhere. And learning from those inevitable bumps in the road, those mistakes or setbacks, is just a vital part of the process. Keep moving, keep adapting.
So yeah, to kind of bring our deep dive to a close today, we've really explored the power of SMART goals, making them specific, measurable, ambitious, yet realistic and timely. These aren't just, abstract business speak concepts. They are genuinely practical tools. Tools that can transform your aspirations into concrete plans, bringing clarity and reducing that feeling of being, well, overwhelmed.
Yeah, we've also really tried to underscore the importance of being able to prioritize effectively, being adaptable when things inevitably don't go exactly to plan, learning from any setbacks you encounter along the way, and also thinking critically about how goals function within a team setting. It's not just about setting the goals initially, but about understanding the potential hurdles and being ready, willing to adjust your approach as needed.
Which leaves us with maybe one final thought for you to take away and really consider. Think back to that biggest dream you have, the one we mentioned right at the beginning. What's just one small, genuinely smart step you could realistically take towards making it happen this week? Doesn't have to be huge, just one step. Start small, be specific, make it measurable, achievable, time-bound, and just begin to build that pathway towards your ambition.